afternoon to you on this stage 13. Unlucky for some, I suppose. The stage taking the riders today 159 kilometres from Oviedo to Lagos de Covadonga. A big uphill, in fact, up mountain climb at the end of it all, which really, as at yesterday, I think, will blast great holes in the overall classification. But at the moment, as you look at the back end of the field here, we have got a breakaway group of riders who are doing their best to stay away, and Onse are putting the hammer down to try and pull them back. Lovely day today, 25 degrees. 143 riders started the stage, and looking back at yesterday's results, by the way, Bunyo crashed. If you wonder what happened to him, he actually got upended and came in about 16 minutes down on the rest of the riders. Talking of crashing, we've had one today as well, when Casero has come down with a bang, but he's got back on his bike. He's next winner of the Tour de l'Avenir. And here at the back we can see Miguel of the Benesto team. Well, he's not, I think, in the best of humour at the moment, but let's see if he can pull back some of the deficit when we go up towards that final big climb of the day. Somehow, I suppose, as they've now got some, 50 kilometres to go towards the finish, they're coming in through Covadonga. There's no great panic as far as they're concerned on the gap to the leaders, because the riders out in front at the moment. Zanini is out there with the breakaway group, which includes Konishev, Rodriguez, and two of the lesser-known riders. I'm just waiting for confirmation on my headphones now of that time check between the leaders and this main group here. None of the people in that breakaway group, the 5 men that went off quite early on, in fact, the Celestino and Petacci were in that breakaway group. They went away after only 3 kilometres of racing this morning, and they were subsequently joined by Zanini, Rodriguez and Konishev. After some 25 kilometres, they had actually got a lead of 2 minutes on the main field. It's now come back to 3:32. That's a little more respectable than yesterday, when our breakaway group of 4 riders managed to stay away from the main pack, with Nardello getting the stage victory. If you've seen our highlight programme, and you've just switched on now to the live broadcast this afternoon, in that programme I was not too happy about the way that Nardello managed to sort of lever his way past Perron in the finishing sprint. It looked quite legitimate, and in fact the commissaires upheld the fact that it was a move really from Nardello not to pull back Perron and make a life difficult for him, but to make sure that he didn't run into the barricades. And so the result, as you saw it yesterday, if not this morning on Eurosport, still stands. Nardello, the winner of yesterday's stage, just ahead of Andy Perron, with Peter Meinhardt coming in 3rd spot at some 14 seconds. Canzonieri, the 4th place rider. I'm doing this now, by the way, as we're looking here at Jalabert in the red jersey, leader on the points classification. I'm giving you yesterday's results because our camera picked up the first 2 going over the line, Mardello and Perron, then concentrated first one on Alex Zuller getting away from the main pack, and then upon the gap back to Miguel Indarain, who was struggling to stay with the pace. So I think we should give due recognition to Peter Meinhardt of the Telecom team, as you're now looking at the Onse squad on your screen here at the moment. Because there they are, all 9 of them grinding away at the front. But Nardello of Marpe, having won the stage ahead of Perron of Motorola team. Peter Meinhardt survived and came in 3rd spot. And Canzonieri of the Seiko team also survived, came in 4th at 22 seconds. So those 4 riders who entertained us yesterday with that long lone breakaway survived the day. But the cameras went back to pick up what was going on behind. We saw Zuller stomp away from Indarain and Romigo and the rest of them, and Zuller came in 5th spot, 2 minutes and 26 seconds down on Nardello. Laurent Jalabert in 6th spot was just behind Zuller. You may have seen our picture. He was just a few metres down the road when Zuller crossed the line, and he was in 6th spot, 2 minutes and 31 seconds, so just some 5 seconds between Zula and Jalabert. Tony Romigo, we spotted him coming in. He was 7th overall, 2:33 down on the leader, just a couple of seconds behind Jalabert. And then in 8th spot was Pistori, 9th was Dufo, all those riders being given the same time finishing. Then Rebellin, Gianetti was 11th, Serrano of the Kelme team in 12th spot. Axel Merckx, I was trying to spot the Motorola rider, and it was so difficult on our screen, and I was waiting for information over my headphones and didn't get it. But the Motorola rider we saw surviving and going up with Bobby Julich was in fact Axel Merckx. I should have picked him out, a great big tall gangly fellow. He finished 13th at 2 minutes and 48 seconds, just ahead of Apollonio of the Scrigno Blue Storm team, Faustini of the AKI GPM team 15th, and Bobby Julich in the white jersey for Motorola did a very good ride to finish in 16th spot. This is our breakaway group at the moment. I've been talking about them, how they clocked off the first two to go. Celestino and Petacci on your screen there, the bottom two there, Celestino and Petacci. They were the first to go after only 3 kilometres of racing, and in the first hour today they covered 46 kilometres in that first hour, which is about 28 miles an hour. So it's been a very, very quick start to the day. And somehow I think these riders wanted to get away and get themselves prepared for the final big climb of the day, which is really going to be a thumping great mountain for them to go up. The top of the climb, 1,120 metres above sea level at the Lagos de Covadonga. Looking down the general classification at the moment of these 5 riders here, stringing away. They're coming off the top of the climb of the Venta del Pobre, and over the top of that climb Konashev was first, second was Petacci, third Rodriguez, and in 4th spot was can't read my own writing here. I'll have to tell you what it was later on. I wrote it down rather quickly, please accept my apologies for that. But we got first, second and third, Konashev, Petacci and Rodriguez. Going back down the general classification, Escartin, on yesterday's stage, Escartin finishing 23rd spot, Indarain 24th at 3 minutes and 26 seconds down. So if you look at the gap between himself and Zula 2:26 down, Indarain 3:26 down. I said when I pressed my button on my watch that it was around about a minute's deficit that Indarain had lost on Zula, and so it was at the end of it. So he was dropping even further behind Miguel Indarain. Bobrick, the little Gavis rider, was 26th yesterday, 3:36 down. Max Chiandri, the British rider for the Motorola team, in 30th spot, 3 minutes 39 seconds down, just ahead of Malcolm Mowry, who was 31st, 3:44, and Neal Stevens, 32nd at 3:44. They've done a tremendous job, the Onse team, to keep Zula and Jalabert in contention, and not surprisingly, Mowry and Stevens got dropped off a bit toward the top end of the climb, but still did quite well. There we are. This is the climb, the first category climb they've got now ahead of them. And this will be after 118 kilometres of racing. And then to finish the whole lot off, once they drop off the top of that one, they've got to climb the final big mountain of the day, which will take them way up into the sky. Beautiful conditions, thank goodness. We're a bit worried with the weather getting rather rough down the south. We were in the race early on, that perhaps when we got up into the mountains in the north side of Spain, we might find that the mist and rain might come down and make the pictures rather difficult, but it's going okay today, all being well. So further down yesterday's stage finish, I said Bunyo fell off. He came 107th, 16 minutes 11 seconds down. Together with people like Manali and Conte, Tom Steels, Honoric Dance, a load of the top sprinters were marooned in what they call the laughing group, but nobody's laughing yesterday, coming in 16 minutes 11 seconds down, but thankful to see the finish, unlike a number of riders who we had retire yesterday. Quite a fair old roll call of people who climbed up their bikes. So you're watching our breakaway group here on your screen. We lost yesterday, how did we lose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 riders yesterday abandoned the race. Some of them as a result of the crash, which saw Anderson, the telecom rider, whisked off to hospital. I haven't had the update on his condition, but the telecom rider from Sweden was taken to hospital in the air ambulance. And a crash including people like Loda, who knocked it on the head. And amongst the retirements yesterday were 1, 2, 3 of the MG Technogym team, Baldata, Loda and Molinari, all stopped yesterday, and 4 of the Maio Jumbo team from Portugal also climbed up. I don't know whether they're going to nip back and watch the Formula 1 Grand Prix or something, but it's very significant that 4 of the Maio Jumbo team riders called it a day yesterday. Just over 3 minutes to lead now on your screen there. You can see the blackboard man. It was 3:32. In fact, they say 3:07 here. And they're on that climb up towards the top of the first category climb of the Alto Mirador del Fito. And when they get there, they'll have covered 118 kilometers of the race today. And down the other side, it's one great rush, and then up towards the finish. And yet again, how typical it has been with the Once team doing all the work on the front. They're such a dominant squad at the moment. Nobody else seems to have the strength in depth that they've got, and so they're controlling the race very strongly here. Looking back there, third in line, you can see Neal Stevens, and I was chatting yesterday to Stephen Hodge, or as I may said to you earlier on, that his mother Jan is over here at the moment. In fact, she's up in France somewhere, and is intending to see Stephen on the 23rd of this month. Well, as the Once team riding away here on the front, I was talking a bit about the fact that Neal will be joining the Lotus Festina team. That's the fellow with the glasses there, almost filling your left-hand side of your screen. Neal Stevens is moving over to the Lotus Festina team next year. And I was asking Stephen just how was he going, and he said, well, we're having a cap-out the other day, he said, and Steve-O is actually stomping at the moment. But what Sainz is doing is very much putting him on the front to work hard for the benefit not only of Jalabert and Zula, but also the other Spanish riders in the team. So he's betting himself on behalf of people like Melka Mauri in there, and Cuesta, etc. So they really are working him very hard indeed. But of course, the other 2 Lion men when it comes to working, Miguel Zarabaitia and Alberto Lina Tavaluccia, both those 2 on the front at the moment, they're 2 other tremendously strong workhorses. And I suppose if you look together with Lina Tavaluccia, Zarabaitia and Neal Stevens, you couldn't find 3 stronger, harder riding men. And I'm not being disrespectful to Olivier Rincon, the Colombian, who's just behind them. Rincon operates mainly in the mountains, whereas people like Stevens, Zarabaitia and Lina Tavaluccia are all the men who drive it on the flatter parts and on the first part of the mountains. And then once when these chaps on the front, those chaps with the wide parting, disappear off the front of the field, and with people like Stevens, then it's up to someone like Rincon to take over. Then Mauri will take over, and they'll shelter Jalabert and Zula as long as they can do on the climb. This first category climb with a gap just over 3 minutes from our 5 leaders. A lovely long shot off the type here. Oh, David Garcia has abandoned. I'm not surprised. He came down in a crash earlier on. Ex-winner of the Tour de l'Avenir has climbed off his bike. Oh, Motorola thin down now. Max van Heijswijk has also called it a day. It looks as if our leaders are splitting. Celestino and Petacci, who started it all. The Polti rider Celestino, the Skriniar Blue Storm rider Petacci were the first to go away after 3 kilometers of riding. They're joined by Rodriguez of Kelme, Konashev AKI, and Zanini of the Gavis team. And now it's splitting. And it looks like Konashev at the moment has gone away with the Polti rider Celestino. Yep. Konashev has been putting in some very consistent rides so far in this Tour of Spain. He promised so much a few years ago that didn't quite come on song. He just hovered there or thereabouts. Silver medalist in the World Championships when it was held in France on the Chambéry circuit. And they see they're way down on general classification, so there's no reason at all that the main field will be worried about them, except the glory of trying to get a stage victory. And Celestino of the Polti team, undoubtedly here the best climber. Konashev is not your world's greatest climber. He's a good all-rounder, good sprinter, good hard rider, but he's going to have to just work here. In fact, if memory serves me correct, he was the first Russian ever to win a stage in the Tour de France. I may stand corrected on that one, but he's been around a few years now. Just keep putting in sort of fairly consistent performances. When he comes to the mountains going up like this, he just finds it a bit difficult to stay with the speed. And that's what they're climbing up now, you can see. And then down the other side, so what goes up must come down at some point. Well, you can read what I can read, riding one of these copy aluminium bikes. Certainly suit the little chunky riders, these frames. Oversized aluminium, of course, because we try and make them down to the normal diameter that we have on normal race bikes. Then they're inclined to be a bit on the whippy side, but technology now having devoted so much time to metals for space travel, they've been improving the quality of the aluminium. And this looks like Rominger romping away at the front, and it is on your screen there. 14th overall, see at the bottom there, 8 minutes down on general classification. What would be the position, I asked myself, and you must do the same thing, had it not been for day 3 when the Once team grafted away off the front and split the field, and he was marooned in the back half of the field. Somehow I think that he's going to try now to get himself some points in the King of the Mountains competition. Those 5 men have gone up the road in front of him, and he's got to pull them back. At the moment, going into today's stage on the King of the Mountains competition, he's back in 5th spot with only, what, some 21 points. Bobby Julich is leading overall with 33 points. But the riders who broke away yesterday, Canzonieri, Perron and Nardello, have all leapfrogged Tony Rominger in the King of the Mountains competition, put him down to 5th spot at the moment. He was challenging Bobby Julich at one time, so perhaps now he's deciding, I'm going to get some points on this King of the Mountains competition. I might as well do it now, and then certainly towards the end, when we finish up that very big final climb today, get some more points as well. We'll wait and see. I think they fetched him back, though. You can see in the background the sea. That's the Costa Verde, known as the Green Coast, because the sea is quite green when you get down into it. Also, you can see inland, because the wind comes in off the sea, and the temperate climate in the winter allows plenty of vegetation to grow. We're not all that fine land either at the moment. The mountains run right the way down to the edge of the sea, virtually. Oh, it's taking its toll this climb, isn't it? And this is our leader at the moment on the climb, looking very comfortable indeed. We haven't seen much of him. He's been hiding himself in the bunch, I think, waiting for the big days like today. And that was a very good move indeed to go away right at the start after some 3 kilometres have been covered. You can see there, no great threat at all to the overall classification. This is what these sort of people do. They just say there, say, look, I missed out on the breaks earlier on. I'm now no great threat to anybody. I'll try and pick up a stage victory. And the riders will look at the routes, look at the handbook and say, hey, that's the day. Oh, Indarain struggling on the left-hand side here. That's the second day we've seen him in trouble. And the Mayo Jumbo rider, Álvaro Campos of Portugal, begin to go past him. The Escudero rider up alongside him here, number 48 on your screen. Well, I've got bad news for him, for Gonzalez. If he hasn't already found out that the Escudero team is going to fold at the end of this season, it owes a lot of money right now. Something like 150 million pesetas the team owe. And so this team, which is founded by a lot of supporters of cycling in the Basque area, is now in liquidation. What a shame. And look at Indarain struggling. This is Mano's size, by the way. Look, the team manager on... You devil. He just tapped the side of his door, said, well, come on, Mig, come on. And he's gone up there to tell his lads that Big Mig's struggling, so put the hammer down. And here comes the Banesto team manager to keep an eye on things. Oswego Unze. He's going to lose more ground at this rate or not, Indarain. Milko Mauri of the Onse team is only about 1 minute and 5 seconds behind him on general classification. He's up the road ahead of him. Oh, I've never seen anything like this. Well, we had him struggling in the Tour de France, but that was further on up the mountains. But look, he's been overtaken by other riders. I just wonder whether he's lost interest now. Sooner or later, every Grand Champion finds himself struggling against time as age begins to toll the bell of retirement. But perhaps somehow I think the cold, damp weather conditions which we had yesterday did not exactly amuse Big Mig. He likes the sun on his back, but he's courageously riding on here, concentrating, keeping the revs up. One thing about a big fellow like himself, when they get to the top of the climb, many of these chaps you see now going past him, look at these two here from the Lesso Mayo Jumbo Portuguese team. I'm not being very negative about the Mayo Jumbo team, but would they ever have thought they'd overtake Big Mig on a climb in a great classic tour like this one? Well, never in their wildest dreams, but that's exactly what happened. In fact, of course, you all start somewhere and you all finish somewhere, and Rolf Goltz was looking, and I think it was the Tour of Asturias, which he won some years ago, and he's looking on the stage, it might have been the one yesterday, which finished in similar circumstances, and he was looking down the finishing list just a couple of days ago, and there he found the name of Miguel Indarain finishing way down the peloton. He didn't remember riding with Mig in those days because Big Mig was just finding his way as apprentice, just working his way through the ranks of riders until, of course, he became the Grand Champion that he has been and still is in my books, because to see him here riding on when he didn't really want to come into the Tour of Spain this year. His sponsors forced him to do it. He looked quite happy earlier on. There's some talk he has got a touch of bronchitis and his breathing is a bit tough, but he's not using that as an excuse. He's just prepared to ride. And I wonder if he'll go all the way to the finish in Madrid, or whether he might climb off as we get up in the Pyrenees near to his hometown and decide that's it for this season, and in fact for good. Somehow I think if he doesn't ride next year, cycle racing will be the poorer without him. He has such enormous class and enormous courage too. The suffering he's gone through day in, day out to have the success he has done, really, it hasn't been shown on his face, but everybody knows when you're riding a bike, you have good days and bad days, and he's ridden through those good and bad days like a gentleman. Here we are, our leader at the moment at the front, ripping the whole field to pieces, the Polti rider. Mirko Celestino, who's on his own. That's Zuller and the white hat. Morse at the right-hand side of your screen. Rink on his left-hand side. Jalabert there as well. But I've got the word for the team manager that Indarain is beginning to lose ground and struggling at the back. But so I still think when they get up to the top of the climb on that descent, Indarain can rejoin them. But what will happen when we come to the final climb of the day? That is an absolute stinker. When they go up towards the finish, they've got 13 kilometres of climbing to finish at Lagos de Covadonga. When they drop off the top of this climb here after 118 kilometres of racing, they'll be dropping down the other side, and there'll be something like about nearly 20 kilometres of downhill or fairly flattish riding before they start to curl upwards toward the finish again. So I'm pretty sure that Indarain will be just biding his time, waiting until he gets his strength back, and then we'll on the descent regroup with the rest of the riders, ready for the final big climb of the day. Clock beginning to run for the gap between this little lad here and the main group behind. He's no threat over on general classification, so as we pass the rhinos on the right-hand side here, going through a territory which, in fact, over the years has had more than its fair share of wild animals, wild cats in the part of the world, not only here, but as we drop down and got towards the finish at Covadonga, we're going through an area which even has some wolves, ospreys, vultures, and even bears surviving. So watch out, lads. You drop off the back. Oh, there we are. We were just losing Zanini. Zanini's now about to be caught by Rominger, who's charging away at the front. He looks very good indeed. Zanini was one of the early breakaways this morning, and now he's been absorbed by the chasing group after trying manfully to stay away. Also the Camry rider, Rodriguez, hanging on in there, and one by one they're likely to be caught by that chasing group behind. Rominger really is setting a fair old pace here on the front, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that goodness knows what would happen in this race. This 3 times winner of the Tour of Spain had he not been split on day 3. Because look how good he is now. He's keeping his eye on the rest of them. I'll see the white jersey of Bobby Julich, the King of the Mountain lead at the moment. I can't see Zanini, the Gavis rider, who's now been sucked back in that lot. Zanini, winner of the Amstel Gold in May this year, has now been overtaken by the sprint specialist or climber specialist. Jufo there on the right-hand side of your screen, just behind Rominger, the 2 Swiss riders. In fact, 3 Swiss riders on the front now, because Zuller's up there as well. So 3 from Switzerland. Hey, there's Zanini just dropping off the back now. The Amstel Gold winner, I was saying, had been away in that early break. Bobby Julich in the white jersey with the red and blue crash hat on, but Axel Merckx just a little bit behind him. What a tremendous race we're going to have in the World Championships on the quality of the riders from Switzerland. When you think of Rominger, Zuller, Giannetti, of course. That in the red jersey is Jalabert. Where is Zuller? We're over the top of the climb now, 2 minutes 20 seconds back. I'm just having a look to see where Zuller's got to. I think he's in this little group here, not far back, but Rominger's certainly doing a lot of damage at the moment. On the top of the first category climb after 118 kilometres of the race today, stage 13. A lot of damage being done. It's a lucky day as far as Indarain's concerned. He's been really he's really lost contact with the leaders at the moment. He could regroup on the descent down the far side, but the man first over the top of the climb today was the Polti rider Celestino, who is now, I think, in a difficult position as to whether he should continue with his breakaway or wait for some of those riders to come up to him. The gap there showing on your screens back between the leader And Indarain here is still looking reasonably comfortable. Stephen Hodge was telling me last night, and we've seen it all the way along the way, that the massive crowd this year, they've never seen crowds like it before on the Tour of Spain. They're all here to see one man, and he's on your screen now. Miguel Indarain has got an enormous following, whether he goes all the way to the finish, whether he wins or loses Tour of Spain. He's got tremendous following, and they're applauding not just his gutsy performance in this race, but the whole of his tremendous achievements over the years. He's been one of the top bike riders in the world. In fact, the top bike rider when it comes to, in recent years, his performances in the Tour de France. I haven't seen the audience figures for the coverage in Spain on the TV, because Eurosport, we're covering it, going out live all over Europe. Also, Spanish television coverage is being received by everybody too, but I'm sure that they're going to say, hey, this is a great year, the figures were brilliant. And this is getting towards what they call the bus. It isn't the final tail end group of the riders, but in there you can see just on the front Uchikov in the Polti colours, the red jersey going through of young Werner from Telecom team, who's leading on the sprint classification. Now, these are the men that have been entertaining us in the first 9 days of the tour with their tremendous sprinting ability, and now the mountains are taking their toll. And here, Dear Sabala just sitting on the back wheel of Indarain. And I wonder if the rumours we've had that Indarain might be attracted to ride for the Once team next year are true. And I just can't think really that they could put a man like that into their team, because we feel like Jalabert, Maori and Zula will have some more chiefs and Indians, I suppose. Ooh, on the way down, this fella's really going some, isn't he? So keep your fingers crossed that all the riders get off the top of that mountain in one piece. This is one of those mountains where virtually what goes up comes down straight away. The climb up and the climb down, if you're watching our program live on Eurosport this afternoon, you'll have seen the sort of profile of this mountain. It's virtually the same from either side. And they started just 20 metres above sea level, and when they get down the other side, they're going to be just 40 metres above sea level. So, having gone up to a height of 600 metres above sea level, they're going to go straight down the other side. So, there's not much left at the bottom for all the climbing. You start all over again when we go up to the finish at Lagos de Covadonga, which is 1,120 metres above sea level. So, a tough old day in the saddle today. Well, you saw on the screen the position this morning with Indarain being third on general classification, but he has to then work his way up now towards the riders in front of him, because Maori start this morning just 1 minute and 5 seconds behind Indarain, and I'm pretty certain that as we're watching Celestino go down here, that Maori is ahead of Indarain. Neal Stevens also is ahead of Indarain. We know that Pistori and Dufo have gone on the top of the mountain as well. They were only a couple of minutes behind Indarain this morning on GC. So Miguel's got to ride hard to stay, as they say, in a podium place, to stop in the top three. This is a bit heavy man for himself. Just make sure you get on the wheel of a decent descender. Not bad so far. keep my eyes peeled. I'm sure you are, for anybody disappearing into the hedge or over the edge, because these things do happen. And I think most of us are sensible enough to realise that there's every reason to just take it easy on the descent today, because we've got that thumping big climb after this one, just a little bit of a run along the valley before they go up again, so might as well not get over anxious on the descent. But it isn't flat all the way down. You can see here, well, there's little blips along the way. And Indarain staying in the big gear, rolling it over the top of this slight change, and he seems to have lost interest to me. That isn't the sort of pedalling power that I expect to see from somebody who is desperately trying to close the gap down. He's just rolling the gear around, so perhaps he's stuffed. I don't know. That was amazing. And I thought on the descent he might have just put a bit more effort into it. And this is our leader. What a nice touch. It's a consolation here from Neal Stevens to Indarain. He's gone up to, and you just saw that act. That's really a gentleman's touch, because he could sense as we hit up that short, sharp rise that Indarain just didn't have the power in his legs, and that the point here with Neal Stevens, technically for the Onse team, his team manager would really thump him with a wet sponge or something at the end of it all if he. A salmon or something that's plenty in the river, slice of wet fish or something, because Neal Stevens can't go in front of Indarain and can't drive him back to the main field. And so I'm sure that's why Neal Stevens ran upside him, put his arm on his back and said, "Come on, Mick, you've got to do it all yourself. I can't help you." Now 30 kilometres to go here, so we've got drama all day live on Eurosport this afternoon in the Tour of Spain, which did start out a bit on the dull side. We had 9 bunch sprint finish day in, day out, and we were just waiting for something to happen. It's happening yesterday, it's happening today. Not only are we seeing the way in which Zuller took charge of things yesterday and romped away to reinforce his position in the yellow jersey, but we've seen Miguel Indarain struggling. Will he get back this bunch? I don't know.
Working closely with professionals.
This is what's left of the main bunch on stage 13. Unlucky for some, unlucky very much for Miguel Indarain, who's lost complete contact with this group up here in front. Although they've slowed down a little bit off the top of the climb, they don't seem to be hammering away too hard. He certainly has been losing ground and might have difficulty regaining contact before we start the climb up towards the top of the Lac de Covadonga. Here we are with Indarain. In fact, his compatriot Hermano Diaz-Zabala of the Onse team has just gone ahead of Indarain. He patted him on the back and said a few words, because technically he wouldn't be allowed to drag Indarain back to this little group here. So what he said to Indarain, "Look, I've got to go, sunshine. I'm a bit stronger than you, so I'm going to set off here and disappear." And he's opened up a gap, because Indarain is certainly not riding with any venom down here at all. He's just coasting down. You see he's hardly pedaling. He's just letting his legs go round. And right down in the bottom and heading along before they start the next climb of the day. So 30 kilometres to go as we're through here. Ariondas, and then up to Las Rosas, and then the climb up towards the finish. And this is our leader on the road. Somehow I think he's going to get himself swallowed up. The lead just ran about a couple of minutes last time we had a time check. Here he comes on yet again. The weather conditions get a bit murky now. It was 25 degrees and bright and sunny to start the whole proceedings today, and Indarain is not happy. You see the vehicles, as we go back to the start here, back to the front of the race. 3:43 to the first group, that's good. And Motorola leading the chase here at the front. They've got Bobby Julich in that little group, leading on the King of the Mountains competition. They got Perron yesterday, finished in second spot. And on the stage yesterday, Mappe won the stage. Motorola was second team yesterday. I'm quite intrigued that Modesto rider is still 1, 2, 3 off the front here. They probably decided to sacrifice Miguel Indarain and not send anybody back to rescue him, as would normally be the case. So it looks like everyone for himself now. And that chasing group has split. Still our leader, with a lead of 3 minutes 43 seconds, with inside 30 k's to go. Celestino. The Polti rider you'll see, and he won't aid that chase at all. He's just marking out. It looks a bit like Giannetti. In fact, there are 2 Polti riders in this little group as well. So it's splitting before we start the final big climb of the day. And that's the split. Well, it certainly was Giannetti that was in that little breakaway, in that little split group I just spotted. And that is a significant little gap that's opening up. Oh, what a hero's welcome. Just sit back and listen to this noise as the king himself goes through the town here. He's in Ariondas, and they've got a close look up at a man who normally will be up at the front of the race. He's now been shelled out of that leading group. And now he's having a quick check how far it is to go. Well, I know that I've had letters from people in Great Britain. One woman wrote, she shed a tear. I forget her name. I'm sorry I left all my papers. I rushed from Manchester back home and then out here to cover this event, that I left my papers at home. And I'm sorry if I don't remember your names, but one woman wrote to me and she shed a tear when she watched Miguel Indarain come off that group in the Tour de France. And for the first time, it looked like he was no longer the invincible man that he was. I'm sure that many people sitting out there just watched Indarain riding through that town would also feel that this is a moment when really he has to decide whether he stays in this race, stays in the sport, because he's really riding on now on his own, and the rest of the race is happening way up in front. We've not seen anything like this, because the Tour de France was not like this for Indarain. He survived that one, he fought his way through, but really in this race now, although he came into it not really wanting to ride, he started to do the best he could, but right now he can't hold the power of this group up in front. There's Max Chandry there for Motorola, was urging them on. Max riding very strongly indeed in this race. And this is the man they're trying to catch. There he is, 117 on your screen at the moment. That's Max Chandry of Great Britain. His real name, I think, is John Smith, but he calls himself Max Chandry. Now look at all the motorcycles round here at the moment. There's a whole lot of press motorcycles. They're ones with the green plaques on the front. They're hovering like vultures at the moment, because I think they're sitting there not just to get pictures of him off the back here, but in case he climbs off. I hope he doesn't. We've got a big stiff climb to come yet, and provided he's not injured, he's not ill, I hope he finishes the stage. I'd hate to see him get off his bike. The temptation must be there when you've been a grand champion, when you're just down the road on your own like this. You can't hold the wheels of riders. The temptation must be to say, hey, stop this, I've had enough. Come on, Mig. And there they are, all the motorcycles with the green plaques on the front, the cameraman there. He doesn't look too good. Let's hope he's not sick. Yeah, he said, get that man out of the way, yes. There's one of the motorcycles driven by a particular man that's really been causing trouble right the way through the race. He's already objected to the commissaires about this particular driver. I'm not exactly familiar with which one it is, but he's not been too happy with some of the motorcycles. He was then pointing at that he didn't want that camera too close to him. I suppose when you've got a moment of sadness and when you've got a moment of pain and suffering, the last thing you want is people shoving cameras up your nose to show that to the world at large. Chandri going through. Kai Huntermark in this group. We're not likely to see the Polti rider, I thought, do much work here. There's at least 2 or 3 of them. The Gianetti's in there at the moment. And here he is. Our lone raider himself. Actually, last season, he only turned pro last year. That was his first year as a professional rider. And last year, he was the under-23 world champion for Europe, that was. Champion of Europe, Espoir, they call it. The under-23s, the Espoir Championship of Europe. And that was his only big success last year. And so now in the pro ranks, working his way through. He's setting a very hot pace. See how this chase is coming. He's still hanging on to that lead. I think that's Rodriguez of the Calme team who's just come off the front. He was one of the early breakaways with the group today. And still survived. While we go back to Miguel Indarain, who looks like he's recovering some of his composure now. He's rolling quite a big gear there. He's on the outside ring. He does a quick flick to change the gear. Benesto, his sponsor, a big bank in, also one of the biggest banks in Spain, had some terrible financial problems about 3 years ago when they had some bad investments, went sour on them. It took a concerted effort of a number of other banks to prop up the Benesto group, because you can't have a big bank like that going under. The bank has survived now. It's much more on its way back into recovery. And they continued their sponsorship of the cycle racing team, because out of the massive billions of pesetas that they were in the red, they kept going with the cycle racing team because it was small beer. And there is a Benesto team truck. Now, hang on. We just spotted it on our cameras. The helicopter's hovering. That looks like that maybe the team hotel. I can check the hotels for you, but that looks like the Benesto team truck and the hotel. Is he going to ride past it and ride up to the finish? And look at this group coming back. These are the what we call the laughing group, the bunch at the back, all the men who couldn't stay with the attacks up at the front. And he's now going to find himself in this group. There'll be some sympathy, in fact enormous sympathy, from these riders here who've been on the receiving end of Miguel Indarain over the years, when he's ripped the fields to pieces, and many of these riders here have suffered as he's been up the front, ploughing away in the Tour de France in defence of his yellow jersey, or trying to get it. And now he's got to get in with the laughing group. His teammates are coming up alongside him to see how he is. There's just a quick chat here with Erwin Nijboer, who actually is retiring at the end of this season. Nijboer. There's all concern. You can see these riders here concerned about the great man. Federico Xavi, Mbappe, just had a chat to him now. His teammate comes up alongside him, Vincenzo Aparicio, to have a word with him too. If there's anything they can do to help him. And all these riders in this group know what it's like to suffer. They've all been through. Every bike rider has bad days. And this is one thing about bike racing. You have to learn how to suffer before you become a grand champion. And even when you're a grand champion, you have those days as well, when nothing seems to go right, when your legs just go to water, and you just got to ride on, ride on, ride on. Here we are, stage 13. They've been racing now nearly 1,500 miles since the race set off. Just one of the many races they're going to do throughout the when these riders will be doing something like 20,000 miles racing, it's a hard sport. And then when you're having a rough time, right in the center of a television camera, you've got to ride through that bad patch. So just up in front of him there is Marcel Wust of the MX Honda Eurosport team, 121. He's pulling over for some reason. Is that it? This is going to be one of the most monumental moments in cycle racing I've ever seen. If Indarain is climbing off and going into his team car, oh, what a disappointment. We can all understand it. Yes, he is. He's going into his hotel. There is the hotel of the Benesto squad, and Miguel Indarain, 5 times winner of the Tour de France, who came into the Tour of Spain this time for the first time since, what, 1991, has decided he's had enough of this race and he retires from the fray after a very, very bad day today and a bad day yesterday. What a sad exit for a grand champion. And what a disappointment for the fans along the route, but they'll all respect his decision. When you've got nothing left in your legs, there's nothing worse than riding on, riding on, riding on. At least he's in a peaceful hotel overlooking the river here, where he can sit and contemplate and think about his future. Think about his wife. Think about his family. Think about all the people who support him over all these years. Think of the success he's had so far and decide, will he come back to bike racing? We don't know. He will know. As we join the race here, the gap 2 minutes and 14 seconds back to our leading rider, Celestino, as they move towards tackling this final big climb of the day, the climb up to finish at Lagos de Covadonga. If you just switched on your television, then I have some sad news for those supporters of Miguel Indarain. He has retired from the race. He climbed off his bike just a few kilometres down the road. It was a very sad moment for those who I'm sure involved in the sport. And although the press tried to swarm around him as he went into the hotel, they let him have that moment of peace. And right now he must be contemplating his future. A man who turned professional, having been a champion of Spain as an amateur way back in 1983. And in his professional ranks, he turned pro in 1985, Miguel Indarain. I know this sounds like an obituary. I don't want it to be that way. I want you out there to realise, after 11 years at the top, he has had to call it a day in this great race, which he actually came into in 1985 to ride. And in the prologue, he took a second place in 1985 in the prologue of the Tour of Spain. He then went on to take the leader's jersey for 4 stages before he retired from the race. And progressively, in the first, 2 or 3 times he rode the Tour de France, they retired him from the race as well, deliberately to keep his strength up so he could come good later in life. And so Miguel Indarain, then the, 32 years of age, has now climbed off in this race here after a career spanning some 11 years as a professional, and really has been a dominating force in the past 5 years in the way that he just taken control of the Tour de France. And this year was the first time we saw him crack, and then now in the Tour of Spain he's called it a day. A sad day, I think, for cycling in some respects, but nobody can go on forever, and new champions will be on the block. And out there at the moment in the yellow jersey, Alex Zuller, we're riding hard now, knowing that one of the greatest threats to his yellow jersey is gone, because with Indarain out of the race, it's going to be, I should think, at the end of this stage, that the Once team might have 4 men in the top 4 places overall on general classification. So the Once team have cracked the race wide open, and they have done what they set out to do. They looked upon Indarain as being a thorn in their side. That's what Neal Stevens said to me a couple of days ago. He said that Indarain was still the thorn in the side of the Once team. Well, now that thorn has been removed, and the Once have 4 men in the top 4 overall on general classification. So from the Masters table, crumbs will fall, I'm sure, in stage victories for the lesser mortals. Perhaps the Once team will allow some things to happen like that when they're so dominant now in this race. The main pack is beginning to regroup before we start the final climb of the day. Stage 13 was an unlucky number for Miguel Indarain, and for these riders here, still a fair old way to go. 22 stages in all, the Tour of Spain this year, and this is by no means the last of the big mountainous days they're going to have, because we've got stage 15 when again they finish up the top of a big climb at De la Tremanda. Then on stage 17, another one, the Alto de Amprio, is a stage finish at the top of a climb, and in between that there's lots of other stages that are going to be a bit difficult for everybody as well. So the tough old race yet to come for many of these riders. I'm sure we've had some abandonments today, and we're going to probably find only probably about half the field will make it to Madrid on Sunday week. Well, information we're getting from the race, by the way, that Echeverry, the director of the sportive of the Banesto team, was the man that asked Indarain to abandon. It was his decision, and he asked him to get off his bike and stop. We saw the team car come up to Miguel Indarain, and he asked him to abandon. There must be some reason within that. I suppose it's to protect the man's physical strength at a time when no doubt he was suffering a bit. We've heard rumours of bronchitis, and we don't know what else might be wrong with Indarain, but Echeverry, we are told on our headphones, was the man that asked Indarain, please stop, and so he stopped just ahead, or just by the team where the hotel had got their team wagon parked outside. So that was that. There, at the back of this little group, is the rider from the AKI GPM team, Konashev, who was in that early breakaway this morning. It set the whole race apart with this man here. In fact, the very first two to go, if you just turned on to Eurosport, with this gap now 1 minute 50 seconds back to this little group here. Celestino and Petacci went away after just 3 kilometres of racing. They knocked up 46 kilometres in the first hour. Zanini, together with Konashev and Rodriguez of the Calme team, went up and joined the two breakaways, and that's the way it's been ever since then. They've been pulling back one by one, the breakaways. Just one man still out there at the moment, the rider from the Polte team, Celestino. Now then, this is where the tough bit really starts. As far as all these riders are concerned, the last 13 kilometres are all uphill. There's the overall race leader with a little white hat on, the yellow jersey rider from the Once team, Alex Zuller. And determination on these people's faces now, because although the men down the road are no great threat overall on general classification, the whole objective now is to see who can get the stage victory here and try and get some more gaps in the overall general classification. I see Nardello back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the front at the moment. Daniel Nardello, who got the stage victory yesterday, having just sort of elbowed his way past André Perron. The judge didn't throw him out for that. He had 40 victories, by the way, as an amateur, and last year in 1995 won the Paris-Bourges, which was run off at something like 30 miles an hour. He was 4th in the Milan-Turin last year, and already this year in the DuPont Tour, he rode rather well indeed, Nardello did. I didn't have time to give you this information yesterday because he's off over and done with, and we sort of came off air before we could tell you much about the fellow. There he is now, almost in the centre of your screen, now moving to left, close to the left-hand side of your screen. Victor yesterday of the stage, and he came quite good this year. He had a 3rd on stage 8 in the DuPont Tour in America, and in the time trials he was 2nd on one stage over 9 miles, and that was ahead of Tony Romigan. That takes him doing. Another time trial over some 7 miles, he was 3rd on that one as well. So he's quite a useful punter when it comes to rolling well, and we saw him yesterday get that stage victory for Mappe, who got the overall classification for the team on that day. So this group then, some 40 seconds back on the chasers, and Mappe really putting the pressure on here. Zola sitting in behind Inigo Cuesta, number 2. And we're on the climb. Well, he survived so far, but I think the speed at which they're coming means that he might well be caught up. We've come along a lovely route today through that little town of Vuelta, across one of the rivers. The estuary's going down in towards the sea. They've now got their backs on the sea. And up through the Costa Verde and up through Covadonga. And now we're climbing up into one of the national parks of Spain. It's an area around here, by the way, you don't get the holidaymakers normally. Along these Picos mountains, you get a lot of mountaineers and hikers from all over the world. There aren't really the sort of sandy beaches right down the coast that you get lots of holidaymakers to go through, but it's some breathtaking scenery, a very nice part to come to. And we're heading up towards Covadonga. And suddenly the elastic snapping as far as Max Chandra is concerned. He's having a little struggle here. Just a quick whiz, by the way, on my normal plug before we get down to the real action on the top of the climb here. I've had a nice little letter sent to me by Phil Liggett saying thanks for the comments that I've been putting out on his Land's End John O'Groats ride, as it's now Friday, coming up towards Saturday. If you're wanting to join him now on the ride as we go through the Meta Volante here, 146 kilometres have been covered of the stage today. Just those final 13 kilometres up the big mountain. Let's see what date we're on now. I'm losing track of this a lot. Going balmy here. Let's lock him away in my booth. So we'll sort out the Phil Liggett thing in just a minute, but that is giving you some idea of the thumping great climb they've got ahead of them. On the climb of the final hawk category, the big one of the day, going up to 1,120 metres above sea level on this stage 13 of the Tour of Spain. On this, the 20th of September. Now this, by the way, you're looking at now is a cloister containing two old tombs in a rock wall above the waterfall. It's traditionally, said Paleo and his band had their backs to the wall and would play there. So that's the adjoining it to the Virgin de las Batalas chapel. And a successor one built some years ago that was damaged in a fire both in 1777 and also 1936. So the recess in the cave contains a sarcophagus of Paleo, who died in 737. So that was what you just saw on your screen back there. And so we're showing you in the Tour of Spain some tourist sites as well. The riders have got no time for touring. Are on their way up this climb. It's a stinker. Where were we? Oh yes, Phil Liggett on his ride from Land's End at John O'Groats, nipping in a bit of local tourist information here. What are we on? The 20th of September. So he's today going up to Burton in Lonsdale and to Tebay, finishing up there. September the 21st, what I think is tomorrow, he's going from Tebay via the B620 through Kings Mayburn on the B6412, starting out at 8:30 in the morning, to Lazenby, Castle Calloch, Brampton, Langholm and to Escadalmuir. So that's on September the 21st. And on September the 22nd, I'm giving the information on Saturday and Sunday, Escadalmuir to Trachea, to Peebles, to Ledburn, to Edinburgh, to Forth Bridge, over to Kelty, Yetzer-Muckart and to Dunning on the Sunday. So if you've got nothing else to do with your time but go out and ride your bike, go and ride with Phil. Take a fiver with you, by the way, at least a fiver. It's all in good cause. It's in the interests of the Dave Rayner Memorial Fund when they're going to send young riders to race over in Europe. And Phil is riding on a super 3,500 quid's worth of Greg LeMond Maillot Jaune carbon fibre bike. I had a good chance of looking at that one in Manchester at the at the track championship as Phil was wheeling it away to put it inside his car. His wife Pat is also riding with him as well. Trisha's a former speed skater herself, or a skater, and there's some Australians with Phil, Chris Rymouth and Glenn Vega, together with a friend of the Liggets, Teddy Wyman. So that's in aid of the Dave Rayner Fund. And if you can't see Phil along the way, you can always send some money to Phil at his home. Phil Liggett lives in the East Cottage Studio, Ashendene, Bayford, Hertfordshire. I'll give you the postcode because that will surely find him anyway. Phil Liggett's at S for sugar, G for goodness knows what, SG 1313, and this is the 13th, isn't it, stage? 8 PZ, and that 8 for Peter, Z for Zula is his postcode, and checks made out to the Dave Rayner ride. You can always find out from cycling, by the way, how he's getting on. I suppose today on Friday you could phone them up before they knock it on the head for the weekend, but so Cycling Weekly, that's 0171 261 5632. Just find out, see where he's getting to, and they're giving more detailed information on it about. Spend the weekend with Phil Liggett, Trisha and friends, and put it all to a jolly good cause. I'm going to be grafting away on the old Tour of Spain, which has turned a rather unusual course today. If you're just catching one of our highlight program, the sad news is that Miguel Indarain, it is said to have been instructed by Echavarri, his team manager. Indarain climbed off at the bottom of this climb here and went into a hotel alongside where the team bus was parked, having been dropped by the leading group, caught by the laughing group at the back, but they weren't laughing when they saw Big Mig in trouble. But he, dignified in his way of riding, just finally turned round, went into the hotel, and it was a sad day for everybody. And so on the 13th stage of the Tour of Spain, sadness has descended upon everybody when the big king himself has retired from the race. Looking back at what's happened today, we started out the first 3 kilometres with an attack by Celestino and Petacci. The Polti rider and the Skira Bluestone rider went away. A very fast start indeed. They covered 46 kilometres in the first hour. They were joined by Rodriguez of the Kelme team, Konishev of the AKI team, and Zanini of Gavis. And they set a good pace. Their lead went up to nearly 3 minutes at one point, and then they were slowly but surely pulled back, and only one man has managed to stay away, and that was the little Polti rider who went over the first category climb in first spot. Celestino from Polti took the first category climb of the Alto Melo del Fito. On the climb before that, at the Venta del Popere, after 98 kilometres of racing, Konishev had taken that one ahead of Petacci, Rodriguez third, and Celestino in fourth spot. The overall race leader is Alex Zuller, there, the white hat on the right-hand side of your screen, riding for the Once team, who, providing everything sticks together like it's looking at the moment, should finish on overall classification in first, second, third and fourth spot tonight, having seen Miguel Indarain retire, because this morning Zuller had a lead of 1 minute 17 seconds on GC. We're back up with our race leader on the road at the moment. Jalabert second, 1:17. Indarain was third this morning, 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Well, now he's out of the race. And in fourth spot, El Kamari, 3 minutes and 9 seconds back. Neal Stevens was fifth this morning at 3:55. So they'll all move up one spot. That could give the Once 4 riders in the top 4 places. Left-hand side of the screen, Laurent Dufaux riding for the Lotus Festina team. Line this morning 7th overall, 4 minutes and 31 seconds back. So he's hanging on in there at the moment. He'll also benefit by the absence of Miguel Indarain from the results this evening. And as far as Stephen Hodge was concerned, I was talking to him last night, and he said that the speeds have been absolutely phenomenal, but it was boring in some respects. The start race has been really fast, and yesterday was the first what they call real day of racing, and they feel that Laurent Dufaux has got some very strong legs, but many of the riders are absolutely legless at the moment, and the big crowd have been turning out, have been there very much to see Indarain ride. I'd also like to send hello, or buongiorno to the sisters of one of the Festina Lotus riders. That is Mario Tibaldi. Mario Tibaldi, his sister, I think her name is Gelana, I think her nickname is Jovi. She's in England at the moment, and in fact there are 2 sisters out there that Tibaldi's got, and evidently one of them, I think it's Jovi, she listens to Eurosport's coverage of the Tour of Spain, and she has to put up with my rabbiting on though. So, buongiorno, Gerano. I hope you're enjoying yourself and that your brother's out there racing his butt off for the Festina Lotus. And the attacks are coming again, 10 kilometres from the top of the climb. Our leader has gone through. More news on Stephen Hodge. It looks like he might get a job with PR with the Lotus Festina team at the end of the season. Looking after the press relations side of the team, that'd be jolly good to keep him in the sport. Or he's interested in some occupation with a sports marketing firm. We're also been approaching him because Stephen's a very good chat with the chat, and he knows, of course, the sport inside out, speaks several languages, and may well stay in the sport in some form or other. And I think on the 23rd of September, his mother Jan is going out to meet up with him, and Adrian with a new baby, and the eldest Isabel might well pop up as well to say hello to Dad, who's soldiering on in there for the Festina team, looking after the interests of Laurent Dufaux. I asked Stephen if he's going to be riding the World Championship. No, he's going off to ride the Sun Tour and not the Worlds, but he's coming to the race having just had some light racing in July and August, and he's now beginning to feel quite good. Not so good on the climbs, but okay on the flat. It's splitting up now somewhat. This is where the mountain goats come into their elements. And a nice little attack coming off here then for Jimenez, a very good climber on the right-hand side here, that the Bonesto rider without the need to look after Miguel Indarain. Are they pulling back a little lead? It looks like they might be doing so. It looks like he's going to get caught. So after a long, long time up in the lead then, he's going to get caught, and any minute now the thing should change. And there they go. Can he stick with them? He's been away since 3 kilometres of racing this morning, and they've gone straight away past him. The whole stage today coming 159 kilometres, so he's had probably the thick end of 150 kilometres out on his own. That's nearly 100 miles. Well, on his own, he had a bit of help earlier on, but he's now got the big guns firing. And on this climb up to Covadonga, they've now done exactly 150 kilometres. I mentioned early on that Giannetti was looking quite good when he went away with that split that happened. And the rest don't be too bothered at the moment. "22 seconds back then to the group you see here. And one or two begin to struggle. Jimenez just on the wheel of Giannetti, and this very, very green area. And it much looks like they've got some bracken here too. I was amazed to hear a piece on the radio the other day that, in fact, it was on the Terry Wogan show when the report came out that 7% of Great Britain is covered by ferns. That's the green bracken stuff. 7% of the countryside is now being covered by bracken, which is becoming a very prevalent plant, and it's killing everything in its way because it starts to grow and grow. It kills off all other plants round about it. And they're actually saying that there may be some incidence and some connection between bracken and cancer, of all things. And then Terry Wogan went on to say, well, please can I have a beef and bracken sandwich, please? I thought, my goodness, how to look after your health and temper. No, very green part of the world we're in on this stage here, the Costa de Verde. And the mountain climbers absolutely in the element. Zula's looking good there on the right-hand side. The other red jersey we saw was that of Jalabert. So first and second over on GC. Comfortably sat together. Giannetti on the front here. Well, what amazing character. Last year when he won the Liège-Bastogne-Liège and the Amstel Gold, he suddenly burst upon the scene. So many people had just written him off as a domestique, and now he's riding hard here. He had a very bad crash, I think it was in Tour of Switzerland last year, which slowed down his performance, Giannetti, but he was certainly looked upon as one of the stars of last year, and a lot to do with the fact that when he joined the Polti team, he was allowed a certain amount of freedom, but at the same time, the team coach gave him certain training programs and brought him on to the standard, which resulted in him becoming the World Cup leader last year. The red jersey down there, but that's the way it's gone now. But that was Jalabert. He got that as the leader on the points competition, so Onsi really make it clear. And Giannetti's gone. Giannetti's suddenly accelerated now with 5 kilometres to go, 8 kilometres to go. Wow. That is a very, very bold move indeed from Giannetti. It shows that he's got enormous confidence in his ability to climb this mountain. The rest of the group, they were at one time 20 seconds back. I think they're closing up, so Giannetti probably did exactly the right thing. He decided the best thing to do was to get away down the road. So Mario Giannetti is now going off on a long, lone ride. His Polti teammates have been doing most of the work. Celestino early on in the race to try and win the stage. You see there he's 14 minutes down on general classification. He's no threat to the jersey of Zuller. As one by one the riders drift off the back of this group. Axel Merckx looks like he's still there too as well. Can't see the white jersey of the Kingdom Mountains, Bobby Julich. But there's another big group not many seconds back behind this one, and some of the chaps are good climbers. Will be sat in that one, I'm sure. Zuller on the right in the yellow jersey. In the red jersey in between is Jalabert. And the lead-out man, the Onse rider, has done all he can do now, and he's just pulled over it. He's absolutely ridden himself into the ground for the two team leaders, and now it's up to them to set their own pace on this long climb. About 5 miles of climbing still to come. It's a sort of climb when you've got to ride up on a 38 inside ring by 23, seems to be the sort of choice. It was used the first time in 1983 in the Tour of Spain. That was the year when Bernardino won it. And that, by the way, as you're watching it live on Eurosport today, way back in 1983, as you watch Giannetti here struggling on the climb, that was the first time that the Spanish television had transmitted direct a stage on the Tour of Spain. And I suppose you always say with some 13, 14 kilometres of climbing here, with average 20% here, where Laurent Jalabert, the last winner here in 1994, climbed up that it's almost a Spanish equivalent of the Alpe d'Huez. The consistent climbing is now having to affect as Jalabert and Zuller are going away. I can't see that Jalabert will attack Zuller. Jimenez up in front, the Benesso rider who tried to go with Giannetti is struggling. They'll soon reel him in. Oh, Scarton's been in the struggle. Jimenez has now been overtaken. The dip is unbelievable, isn't it? The shouting of the enthusiastic supporters. They've been up here all day, by the way, because of course the road gets closed, and there's nowhere over the other top of this thing. Once you go up, it's the top of the climb. It's a no-through road. They're right up in the Picos de Europa, and up the top, the Lago de Enol, the Lago de la China. The two big lakes are up there. In this part of the world, a very barren part of the world indeed. And this is our leader with just 7 kilometres to go to climb up to the top. And there, Jalabert and Zula are closing up on Giannetti. This very, very wild part of the world. And there, Tony Rominger in the blue jersey, in the midst of this little lot. Poulty got quite some strength in depth still. So you can just see here, the other Poulty rider coming up here, David Rebellin, number 141. He's quite nicely placed overall on general classification, Rebellin, so I think it could be moving up here a bit, because I think Zulik has just been dropped off a bit, Bobby Zulik. Rebellin was lying 11th this morning, 6:55. He was just, some 12 seconds behind Bobby Julik, and I can't see Bobby Julik in the Motorola team at all. So Rebellin could be moving up in the top 10. Rebellin has got with him George Toshnik of the Poulty team. And Toshnik of Poulty team lying 13th overall in general classification this morning. 7 minutes and 29 seconds down. I can't see Bobrick, the Gavic rider, who was just ahead of him on general classification. Tony Rominger is now 14th overall, 8 minutes and 8 seconds down. He's in that little group there. And Rominger now is climbing up very steadily. They're getting rid of 1 or 2 riders. And any minute now, Giannetti is likely to get himself caught by this tandem here, the Once tandem. And they've got him in sight now. Well, it was Giannetti that broke away with Robert Miller on the epic break in the 1989 Kellogg's Tour of Britain, when Miller took the yellow jersey and Giannetti out-sprinted Miller for the stage win into Cardiff. But now I don't think these two are going to be so generous. Giannetti, King of the Mountains in the Kellogg's that year in 1989. And now he's up here with these 2 grand champions. They're going to go straight past him, I think. So Giannetti, now somewhat 32 years of age, just shown that he's still got some fire in his legs, but can't hold the power of these two. As Rominger starts to put the pressure on with this little group, and they really are thinning down somewhat. Stefano Faustini of the AKI team is still with them. Faustini this morning on general classification, lying 8th overall, 5 minutes 47 seconds down. So I've seen Dufra, I've seen Faustini, I've seen Rebellin, seen Toshnik and Rominger. Zula's there, Jalabert's there, but 1 or 2 are beginning to fade. To look back like Jalabert did then, to see all the way down the mountainside, your opponent spread-eagled, and you're still riding with great power. He must be so pleased to get back on form after his disastrous ride in the Tour de France. That's Faustini with the blue shoes for the AKI team. But these are our 2 leaders, with Jalabert doing the work to protect his teammate here, Zula. Zula, who broke away yesterday to win that stage up into Alto de Barranco. Oh, sorry, he finished in 5th spot, but he pushed himself way up on general classification. He knocked time out of everybody else, Zula, when he went away. Nardello won the stage, Perron 2nd, Minart 3rd, Cantaneri in 4th spot. But the interesting thing was the way that Zula went away and sorted out the rest. Jalabert coming in 6th spot, Rominger in 7th, Pistori 8th, Dufo 9th, Rebellion back in 10th spot. And of course that was the day when Indarain dropped way out of the reckoning on that climb yesterday and took an awful bad day, coming in 24th spot, losing a minute on Zola in the process, but now he's climbed off his bike. Rominger leading this little group up here. looking very confident. Certainly, I would think he will be moving up on the King of the Mountains competition now. Julik will be in a bit of trouble here because the riders with the GC points, Zulik had 33 this morning, Bobby Julik, Cangianeri 32, Perron 29, and Nardello 21, and Rominger 21 points. So there's just some 12 points separating Rominger from the King of the Mountains jersey, and I think that he's determined now to take that one on board. We've got 5 kilometres to go for these two riders. Well, it looks like they've got the 38 by 23 going on part of this climb. That's a run down on this little group here, led at the moment by Tony Rominger. They are riding up toward the top, not far to go for the two leaders. Jalabert and Zuller, the two on-sea riders, getting toward the top of this climb. This enormous great climb, 1,120 metres above sea level, to finish stage 13, which has been an unlucky day for Indarain, who climbed off at the bottom of the climb, having been overtaken by the main pack. And his team manager said, that's enough, call it a day. And so he left it to these champions here to fight it out. Rominger on the front here, with Serrano with him. 18 seconds, the gap back between Zuller here in the yellow jersey of overall race leader and the red jersey as the points champion, Laurent Jalabert. Both the on-sea riders, they're first and second overall on general classification. In the distance, you can see the snow-capped mountains. It can get very cold in the winter. A place for people to go skiing, a place to go walking. They watch out though, because they do have some bears in this part of the world. Some survive, you don't see them very often. And up here too, the vultures can be hovering. I mean, the real ones, not the ones who go poking cameras at riders when they fall off looking like they're half dead. Ospreys and wildcats too. And Isard, the chamois in the region too. So a very lovely, lovely part of the world. I hope we get a little look of the lakes of Enol and La Achina right at the top of the climb here in this massive national park. Oh, the cameraman's getting in the way. Come on, get out, get out, get out. You cannot ride a motorbike as they're fast around some of these bends as the riders can handle their bicycles. Bit of a false flat here. That first category climb of the Mirador del Fito after 118 kilometres certainly hurt the legs of many of the riders. So by the time they dropped down into the valley and then started on this climb here, they've been able to see off a lot of riders that just couldn't stand the pace. Neutral service car on the side of the road, being dropped back from the front of the field to look after these two here. What a triumphant stamp of authority these two have placed upon the race today. Well, Laurent Jalabert was the last winner here in 1994. Is he going to get a second success on this climb? Remember that there's bonuses of 12, 8 and 4 at the end of it all. I don't know whether they're going to decide who gets the victory or whether they'll fight it out with just 3 kilometres to go. This is our chasing group. What's left of it, just 4 men. Romiger's doing all the work. They're down to 3 now. Faustini is on Romiger's wheel, and the Polti rider, George Toshnik, is also hanging on for grim death as well. They've got rid of Serrano. To think Romiger could have packed his bags and gone home, you know, it's way down the road. He said, no, I'm going to train for the World Championship and blow this. I haven't got a cat's chance in hell of doing anything. But Romiger, who lost 7.5 minutes on stage 3, or 7:23, I think to be precise, has still stayed with the race. He did a tremendous time trial the other day, and here he is now on this climb. Can't quite hold Zula and Jalabert, but he could be able to put himself up bit by bit over on the general classification. Toshnik with him at the moment. They're just going away on the right, or go on the right-hand side. Toshnik this morning 7:29 on GC. Romiger 8:08, and they've got with them just that one rider from the AKI team, Faustini. So there could be a bit of a change here, because Romiger and Toshnik, they've dropped Bobrick. Rebellion's nowhere to be seen. Bobby Jurek's nowhere to be seen. So whilst the gap between themselves and Zula and Jalabert will be about the same as it was this morning, might even grow a little bit, a lot of riders today are going to drop out of contention. This is quite a big change overall. We're going to see minutes and minutes and minutes on the general classification at the end of it all today. It's not going to be in seconds. You may remember the first 9 days, I think Baldato got help to about 39 seconds of bonification. It was enough for him to take over the race leader's jersey. Well, he packed his bags yesterday and went home. He retired. And we had just, what, some 143 riders left this morning. We've lost about another 3 so far. It's been down to 140 riders. And the mountain climbers are really in their element now. Toshnik up in front, then Romiger and Faustini behind. Romiger sporting one of those little nose bands to enable people to breathe a lot more freely on the climbs, to get oxygen into their lungs. And 2 kilometers to go for these two. Jalabert doing all the work. A dominant show of strength again by Onse today. And there we are, picking up these lakes at the top of this big mountain, which of course in the winter covered in snow. Then they'll soon be on the 1 kilometer to go before we go into the final sprint of the day. The main group still round about some, what, 20-odd seconds behind. The first lake you saw, there was the Enol Lake, and the other one, which will be just on beyond the finish, or just up there. That's one. That's the Enol Lake, and then the China Lake will be the next one, right up here in the natural park, the Picos de Europa. And once they've got up here, they just have to go all the way back down the road. They've just come up. Of course, they'll be climbing into team buses and cars and be taken down to the finish, to the hotels. And there, 1 kilometer to go. One from Switzerland, Alex Zula, leading one from France, Alain Jalabert, both riding for ONCE, the Spanish institution for the blind. Jalabert winner last year in this race. Zula at the moment the overall race leader in the yellow jersey. And can they hold this condition right the way through to the finish in Madrid on Sunday week? Complete dominant show of strength by the ONCE team. And if Zula rides through to the finish to get that success on Sunday week in Madrid, it'll be his first big major 3-week tour success. Zula's promised so often to win a big one, but has been often a little bit fragile towards the back end of a race. He has all the attributes. He's a great time trialist, extremely good climber, but sometimes falls off in the wet or goes through a bad patch and fades at the end of it. He's the enigma of these two. Enigma, start again. Put my teeth back in again. Because Jalabert has got the proven success, a winner last year. But who is going to get the stage victory today? Are they going to ride across side by side? I don't know. 12 seconds bonus for first, 8 for second. And I can't see Mario Sainz there. Mario Sainz, the team manager of the Once team. Mario Sainz is not with them, so there's no team directive as far as I can see that's been given here for these two. So who's going to get the stage victory out of them? Jalabert already had a stage victory when he sprinted across the line into Albuquerque when he took over the yellow jersey of race leader. Zulla has not yet had a stage victory. Yesterday it was Nardello. Oh, look at this. Jalabert got the victory. I suppose as last year's winner of the Tour, they might as well let him have it anyway. But he rolled across the line in first spot. That might also be jolly useful in the time bonuses, just to make sure the third place man can't get close to him. As Giannetti comes across the line now, Giannetti way down on GC. There's no great problem as far as he's concerned. And Rominger then only 25 seconds back. Plus his little escaping group. But where are people like Mochamari, Stevens, Pistori, Jufo? Because they could be losing out. There's Jufo, he's okay, so Jufo could keep on his 7th spot. He might even move up above Pistori of MG Techno Gym Team. I haven't seen Pistori finish yet a while. As usual, hurly-burly of the press gather round to Jalabert, who probably doesn't know at the moment that Indarain has retired, although it won't take long for the Bush Telegraph to let them know what's gone on. There's Jufo going back across the line. They have to be very careful there because the fellow's finished camera is positioned. And big Axel Merckx driving his way up here. Looks like Jimenez just finishing. It's a very close turn-off. You see where they turn those cars away, just running to the finish. Normally, you get turned off about 300 metres before the finish, but they seem to be very close to turn off here. Whoa! That's a stupid thing to do. Oh, no. To even allow anybody to get in the finish area like that is just unbelievable. 2 minutes and 13 seconds on the screen now. The gap back to the rest of the group coming in here. I think that's Pistori coming up now, and Bobby Julich as well. I think he might have lost that white jersey to Rominger, who came in 4th spot. But he certainly will still be in contention for the crown. He's closing the gap down, Rominger, today with that very fine ride indeed. Looks like Pistori coming through here. Well, he's lost a couple of minutes here, maybe 1 minute and 35 seconds, Pistori. I think that Jufo, who was half a minute down, or less than that, who's come through, will leapfrog over him. And I haven't yet seen Neal Stevens come in, who was 3:55 down this morning. So we get quite a bit of a shakeout here on the general classification. And it could be, in fact, that Faustini's moved up above Pistori, maybe into 5th spot as such. There's Axel Merckx here, who is not in any great shakes on the overall classification. Puts on his top and rides back down the mountain. Just imagine that about 140-odd riders out spread eagle across this road. We've seen about, what, 20 of them come in so far. Not 120 yet to come in. Yesterday, the riders on that short, sharp climb are coming in 18 minutes down on the winners. Today, I think it's going to be even more than that. The Petit Casino riders start to come in here. They've lost by the way, De Las Cuevas. He packed it in yesterday. Very difficult finish this. The riders come round and they have to keep the rest of them out of it. So go on, says Zula, says go on, Laurent, you can take this one. So Jalabert, last year's winner of the Tour of Spain, takes this stage where he took a stage victory previously on this climb. We're looking back here, the back view of them on the climb up to Covadonga, where in 1994 Jalabert rode through the victory of that stage as well. Has reinforced their position of first and second overall on the general classification. Oh, there's Stevens going back down again. So on a day which we've seen Miguel Indarain retire from the race, we've seen Once again dominating proceedings. They chased everything down, and then finally, when the big climb was ahead of them, they set up on the big lone climb up to the top to give them first and second. We're looking back then at the big event of the day. This stage 13, an unfortunate and unlucky day then for Miguel Indarain, who retired from the race. He hadn't been looking good for the last couple of days, and so his time had come to climb off his bike. He'd been dropped on the first big category climb of the day. Ahead of him lay the big climb to the finish, and decided enough was enough. Certainly Achavari, his team manager, said, Miguel, you must stop, you must stop. And so he stopped now, and the question is, will he come back to bike racing at all? Will he ride any other event at the end of this season? Will he come back next year and ride? Only Miguel Indarain will know the answer to that one. What a sad day for supporters of cycling who watch that grand champion win so many races, dominating the Tour de France like it has done until this year. But so that was big news today, brought to you live on Eurosport Sports Centre. We'll be bringing you all the latest news as well from across the wide world of the sport. We're going to be back on air again tomorrow as well, cycle racing live on the Tour of Spain. We go on tomorrow on the stage which will take us into the Alta Cruz del Demando. Another tough old day in the saddle as far as the riders are concerned. For me, David Duffield, a sad day for some, but I've enjoyed it. I hope you have. Bye-bye.